Homelessness is an epidemic. On any given night, 646,414 Americans are experiencing homelessness. 84,000 of these homeless Americans are homeless because they're fleeing domestic violence. 138,000 of these homeless Americans are children, and 162,000 suffer from a mental illness. Homelessness is a problem begging to be solved. When I read those statistics off to you, many of you were probably shocked. A lot of Americans don't realize just how bad homelessness has gotten in the past few years. But the thing is, homelessness isn't limited to the stereotype that we often associate with it. When I say homelessness, a lot of us immediately think of an image that we associate with the word. The image might look something like this: a person on the street holding a sign, begging for money. While this image isn't wrong, it doesn't include everything that homelessness really is. Homelessness is defined as humans living in a place not meant for their habitation. That can include people fleeing domestic violence without anywhere else to go. That can include people living on a friend's couch for the time being. That can include people living in their car, people living in shelters. Anybody living in any type of emergency, unstable, or transitional shelter is considered homeless. So when we consider that definition, our stereotype doesn't seem to quite fit. Another thing that we often have stereotypes about is how people can become homeless. We usually think the homeless are the people that are down on their luck, or they're lazy, or they're unemployed. But that's just not always true. As I said, people fleeing domestic violence can become homeless, veterans can become homeless, ex-convicts, and people with jobs. Homeless people go to school with us. Homeless people go to work with us. Homeless people do have dreams and visions, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. The leading cause of homelessness in America is a lack of affordable housing. Even people with jobs can become homeless because nowhere in the United States can you afford to rent a one-bedroom apartment at fair market rent, even when you work 40 hours a week on minimum wage. So we have to remember that homelessness isn't as direct as a path as we often think it is. There's often many things that we don't understand about how people can become homeless. For example, people can fall victim to the domino effect. Pat was a veteran, and when he came home, he could have been content to retire and live off of his benefits for the rest of his life, but he didn't want to do that. He didn't want to rest in his laurels. He wanted to get back into the workforce, so he did. And he bought an apartment, he met a girl, they moved in together, and they got a dog. Life was great. Only the thing is, the day before your life changes forever is just like any other day. Pat was taking his dog out for a walk, and he came across somebody who just really hated dogs, and that person kicked his dog, and Pat lost it. He beat the person up so badly that he caught an assault charge, and he went to jail for 16 months. When he got released, he had a B felony on his record, and he lost everything, including his benefits and his home. With the felony on his record, no matter how hard he tried, nobody would hire him. So just like that, a man who was a veteran, a war hero even, ended up becoming a beggar on the streets of New York. And when one becomes homeless, the identity that you once had and you once thought of yourself often vanishes. People with dreams and hopes and aspirations, when they become homeless, they often don't see the things that they once saw about themselves. They don't see themselves in a positive light anymore. All they see themselves as is homeless. People that are homeless often fall into depression and often just feel a sense of worthlessness. In fact, there's a lady named Becky Blanton, and she was a successful author, but one day she became homeless, and instead of thinking of herself as an author or as the way that she used to think of herself, all she could think of herself as was homeless. Homelessness became her identity. And eventually, Becky thought to herself, do I even matter? If I kill myself, will anybody even notice? That's how deep and dark things can get when you're homeless. That's how far you can fall into depression. Becky is just one of many examples of people who fall into depression and just a dark place when they become homeless. And children can experience that same shame as well. One child came one night sobbing because he didn't want the kids at his school to find out that he lived in a shelter. He didn't want anybody to know that he was homeless. The shame and the embarrassment that homeless people carry with themselves often hinders them from advancing in life. What can we do about this issue of homelessness? One thing that we need to keep in mind is that affordable housing has been on the decline exponentially since the early 2000s. There's now only enough affordable housing to help 1/4 of the low-income families that need it. The HUD has seen its budget cut in half over the past few decades, resulting in a loss of 10,000 units of subsidized buildings ever since. We need 7 million more units of affordable housing before we can adequately combat this issue. So what can we do? One, as individuals, we all have the ability to donate our time, our money, and our resources. I'm not talking about one person ending homelessness for the entire nation, but I think that it is doable for one person to end homelessness for another. No man is an island, and every homeless person is known. They had a life before they became homeless. They had a family, they had friends. So what happened to them? I think if individuals would take initiative and responsibility for the people that they know that are homeless, we could end homelessness one by one. And I'm not just throwing around that notion because I know that it can work. My uncle was homeless 2 years ago. And when that happened, my family said, this isn't right. This can't be happening. And we all worked together to get my uncle off the streets. Now, he has his own home. He has a job that can support him and allow him to pay the rent. He has something to be proud of in himself again. So I know that that solution can work. And we can mobilize as a society to redirect and reallocate the government funds back into affordable housing. We need more subsidized units for low-income families to live in, because otherwise, all low-income families are prone to homelessness, and this problem will only get worse. So we need to redirect our funds to prioritize on a state, local, and federal level. We need to reallocate government funds to augment the amount of affordable housing units available in America. With these two solutions, I believe that we can end homelessness in this great nation. This is a nation that people look to for hope and freedom, and I don't think that we need to have homelessness in it anymore. Thank you.